Islam all too human. Items 10 and 11. This is Abn Alhuriya, Son of Freedom. Purpose of this series: to show the mere humanity of Islam. This is intended to deprive Islam of its claim to be of divine origin and authority. This is intended to erode Islam's political power in the world. This is intended to give relief to the captives, Muslims who cannot see their bondage, Muslims who have doubts about their faith but are afraid to leave Islam, and dhimmis, that is, subjugated populations, who live under crushing oppression. Number 10. Muhammad's marriage to Aisha. Narrated Aisha, my wedding contract with the Prophet was written when I was 6 years. We came to Al-Medina, and we dismounted at the place of Bani al-Harith bin Kajraz. My mother came to me while I was playing in a swing with some of my girlfriends. She called me, and I went to her, not knowing what she wanted to do to me. She caught me by the hand and made me stand at the door of the house. I was breathless then, and when my breathing became all right, she took some water and rubbed my face and head with it. Then she took me into the house. There in the house, I saw some Ansari women who said, "Best wishes and Allah's blessing and a good luck." Then she entrusted me to them, and they prepared me for the marriage. Unexpectedly, Allah's messenger came to me in the forenoon, and my mother handed me over to him. And at that time, I was a girl of 9 years of age. Sahih Bukhari 5.234. Sunan an-Nasai, Book of Marriage, reports that Aisha at the time was still playing with her dolls. Muhammad said to Aisha that he had a dream, twice even, that she had been pictured on a piece of silk, and someone said to him, "This is your wife." When he uncovered the picture, I saw that it was yours. Sahih Bukhari 5.2235. Quran 33.53 prohibits any of Muhammad's wives from marrying after his death. Interpretation: since the marriage was contracted when Aisha was 6, she had no free choice in the matter. This is a violation of her free choice of a husband. By consummating the marriage when Aisha is 9, he is having sex with a prepubescent girl. At this time, Muhammad is about 53 years old. In Western culture, this would be considered a crime. Because Muhammad is considered the perfect man and example, this practice should be considered sunnah, that is permissible. I do not find any prohibition against it in Reliance of the Traveler, that is a manual of Sharia law. Although Muhammad was allowed as many wives as he wanted, Muslim men are only permitted up to 4, which seems like yet another revelation of convenience. But since I do not find a prohibition against marrying prepubescent girls, I would expect it to be practiced in Islam, since it is halal, permissible. Muhammad's dream to the effect that Aisha was given to him is in effect to invoke Allah's authority to do what he wanted, which makes this another revelation of convenience. Muhammad's prohibition of the remarriage of his wives in Quran 33.53 means that by the time Aisha is about 19, she is an unmarriageable spinster. Muhammad's thinking seems to be that the younger and fresher the girl, the more virgin she is, the better, and it would be inconceivable that she would not be a virgin. In the culture of that day, that a woman is a virgin seems to be highly valued. The high value placed on the virginity is consistent with the doctrines of ablution. In this whole transaction, a woman is rendered mere chattel to the man. It should be no surprise that Muslim gangs in Europe are raping young girls. After all, their prophet raped a young girl. If Aisha had no choice, how is that not rape? And if Aisha had no choice, why should kuffar women have a choice? Muslim rape gangs rape European women because 1. They are members of the kafir, which makes them less than Muslim. 2. They are uncovered, which in the Muslim mind makes them sluts. 3. Islamic doctrine devalues women in the first place. The treatment of Aisha and women in Islam, I believe, belies the human origin of Islam. 11. Barbary Corsair raids on Iceland, 1627. Barbary Corsairs were notorious for plundering shipping in the Mediterranean and the Atlantic from about 1530 to the 1800s. The Barbary Corsairs also made 2 raids on Iceland. The first raid began on June 20, 1627. It attacked the southwest coast of Iceland at the towns of Grindavik and Bessastaðir. This raid lasted about a week. It was led by one Amarao race, a.k.a. Murad race, a.k.a. Janzoon van Haarlem. He was a renegado, a Dutch convert to Islam. This raid originated from Salé, Morocco. This raid netted a few dozen captives and a Dutch merchant ship. The Corsairs arrived back in Salé, Morocco on July 30th, where their captives were sold. A second raid originated from Algiers, arrived on July 5th, 1627. This raid attacked the town of Laon, then the town of Jupiv Ogur, then the eastern fjords. Then the raid moved southwest to attack the town of Hamé on the Westman Islands. This raid lasted about 2 weeks. The raid departed on July 19th and arrived back in Algiers on August 16 or 17. This raid was led by Murad the Flemish, a renegado also, that is a Dutchman converted to Islam. This raid netted about 250 victims from Hamé alone. In the course of these raids, many Icelanders were murdered. A Logsagnari, that's the equivalent of a deputy sheriff, named Klaus A. Jolfsson, went to Jaime and collected written accounts of the raid from the local people. The total number of people taken appears to be somewhat less than 400. In the course of the raid, dozens of people were murdered, including a woman and a child burned alive. The Barbary Corsair raids on Iceland are little known outside of Iceland because the primary sources have not been translated out of Icelandic. Question: what are the common elements of these raids? Answer: in both raids, the leader was a Muslim. In both raids, although the leader was Dutch, he brought back his spoils to the Muslim lands where slavery was accepted, to Salé, Morocco, and to Algiers. Question: what was the motivation for the raids? Answer: to gain wealth by piracy. It was done after the pattern of Muhammad's career as a highway robber, except this time by raiding ports. Answer again: this kind of conduct is allowed in Islamic sources because Islam sees itself as owning the earth, since the earth belongs to Allah. As long as they see other peoples as objects of conquest, which dominates Islamic doctrine, the Corsairs could rationalize plunder and slave-taking of any other peoples they wished. I should say that in Islamic doctrine, as I've said in other videos, any land or wealth or people that does not belong to Allah, that is not Islamic, that is not Muslim, is viewed as being in rebellion, and it is perfectly acceptable in Islamic doctrine for Muslims to attack those lands or peoples and to plunder property, real estate, and houses and trees or crops or anything else. The accounts provided by Icelandic sources are outrageous, but just another example of Islamic jihad plundering of humanity. Question: would the God of the universe sanction the plundering of people and the murder of slave-taking of one people by another? Answer: if the God of the universe is Allah, then evidently yes. Here is an example in the Corsair raids on Iceland. Answer again: but if Allah is not the God of the universe, and Muhammad is a false prophet, then the Corsair raid on Iceland, or raids, was a wicked, outrageous case of murder, pillage, and the destruction of towns and the breakup of families. Question: would the author of the Big Bang and the DNA authorize such barbarity? Answer: no. Allah cannot be the creator. Muhammad, as a brigand, was functioning only as a criminal, as were the Corsairs, following Muhammad's example. This shows Islam to be only a human doctrine. Islam all too human. This is Abn Alhuriya.